Welcome to JIBRIN Angle on Oweleke TV. My name is JIBRIN, and this is my angle. Once again, thank you once again, Barrister Manta, for joining us this day. Barrister Manta, for those of you who are new, who probably this is your first time, Barrister Manta is a very, very senior legal practitioner of over 40 years in practice. He's a public affairs analyst, a current affairs analyst as well. So he is more or less like my fellow host or co-host, as you wish to call him, because since the inception of this show, he's been 99.5% always on this show. So thank you so very much, Barrister Manta, for joining us again.
Thank you for having me.
All right, viewers, this is JIBRIN Angle. In case this is your first time, what we do on this show is basically current affairs and political commentary, opinions, and a kind of we engage in general conversation in matters of the moment as it concerns Nigeria in particular. That's we talk about other stuff, but Nigeria is mainly our focus, and that's what that is it. And today we have numerous topics to talk about. I hope we'll be able to exhaust that. All right, Barrister, let's start with Abure. Julius Abure, Labour Party, the Supreme Court ruling, right? It was in fact, it was unanimous. I didn't see that coming. I thought Bola Tinubu will manipulate the legal system. Probably, I think Labour Party is not. It's not important to them anymore. That at this juncture, they feel probably they have decapitated the entire what's it called, opposition parties. No one, we don't even have any viable, any strong opposition party to actually withstand APC in the next general election, 2027 general election. So so probably that's why they just allowed the justices to do their whatever, because I don't know the last time we actually got a political judgment with unanimity of the courts, where all the justices actually went the same direction. So that's to tell you how flawed that the case is in the first place. Barrister, what is your take on this?
Thank you very much for this issue. At least for now, we can say that the crisis in the Labour Party has been brought to an end judicially. That's not to say the crisis has ended, but from the perspective of litigation, it has ended. What remains is for the political actors, and already you are hearing discordant tunes. Some national executive members of the Labour Party are saying Abure remains the national chairman. Nenadi Usman's committee is applauding the judgment of the Supreme Court and saying that by virtue of party supremacy, Abure has gone. So while we have finished the judicial angle, the political angle is still there. And probably, like you pointed out, the Labour Party is no longer a viable platform, a viable opposition. It's not what it was in going to 2023, because it was the obedient factor that galvanized Labour Party into what it was. Now, by and large, virtually, we are seeing from the body language and statements of Peter Obi that that platform will no longer be used by him. So I can agree with you that the Labour Party is no longer useful to the government in terms of manipulating the opposition. But coming back to the judgment of the Supreme Court, we have seen of recent the Supreme Court beginning to say, oh, we political decisions are not within the purview of the judiciary. That is really not a new phenomenon. As far back as 1982, we had the case of Okafor and the Attorney General, where the Supreme Court said then, 1982, that the court is not in a position to decide political questions, and courts should not delve into political issues, meaning leadership, internal issues of the party, like leadership of who is the chairman of the party, who is holding which position in the party, and the rest. But over time, that has been modified by the Electoral Act and by other judgments. Now, the Supreme Court is going back to that judgment. Look, go back and sort out your issues. In the context of Nigerian politics, it creates more problems than it solves. Because the crisis started within the party. And if the party cannot settle the crisis within it, the court should be there to settle, because you have a constitution. I disagreed with the Supreme Court as far back as 1992, when I took up a case in the court, electoral case in the Court of Appeal. I said, look, this issue of political question, the parties, why do we insist that the party should have a party constitution? If there is a constitution of the party, the court should be able to hold that you have not followed the constitution of the party. It should not wash its hands off, because that way it is not helping the internal democracy within the party. If you leave it to the political actors, already, like I said, you are hearing discordant tunes. Some faction of Labour Party are insisting Abure is still the chairman. Others are saying, how do you resolve that? Does it now become a question of who is stronger in the party? Who now seizes the political party? If the court will not intervene, it leaves it to the stronger person in the party. And that allows room for government interference in that party.
Honestly, I think that was an omission from me. I was actually going to ask that question because I don't know. In fact, I don't know why I forgot, because it just skipped my mind. It was a very important question. Actually, I had the intention of asking you before the show started. Honestly, it doesn't make sense to me. Just what you explained to me, what you just explained doesn't make sense to me either, legally. I don't understand. The Supreme Court sends the whole thing back, first of all, nullify the whole appeal court stuff, that they don't have jurisdiction because it's a kind of it's a family matter. Therefore, go and sort out yourself. Family matter, does it mean even when we have, even in the families, in the real literal family issues, courts still courts still delve into family matters between siblings, between relatives here and there, between parents or whatever, between children, mother, parents, and children. So I don't know. I honestly, but I don't get that judgment. Does it mean that a party, a political party, has supremacy, its supremacy supersede that of the constitution, or its constitution? Does it supersede Nigeria's constitution?
No, Nigeria's constitution. A political party is an association with its own constitution.
Yes.
So not the Nigerian constitution. The party.
I know. I understand. Oh, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If the Supreme Court, hold on, Supreme Court sent it back. Obviously, Supreme Court just struck down the. They didn't deliberate on the matter. They just ruled against the matter based on jurisdiction, that the appeal court does not have jurisdiction over. I don't understand. Yes, the Labour Party has a constitution. What I'm saying, does Labour Party's constitution supersede or override the Nigeria's constitution?
Not at all.
So, and that is why I try to make sense out of this Supreme Court judgment, please. to me.
That is why I went down memory lane and told you that back in 1982, with the case of Okafor and the Attorney General of the Federation, that is the locus classicus. That is the case where the Supreme Court pronounced that the judiciary, the court, is not equipped, is not in a position to answer political questions. And he categorized issues of internal issues in the party, like leadership of the party, as political questions, which the court is not adequately equipped to answer. So anytime, at that time, let me just get this on. From that 82, anybody, a political party, the directing officers of the political party wrote and said this was our candidate. You could not challenge it. No matter whether you, within the party, you are more popular, or the party mechanism brought you up, the party officials could send another person's name. And that was called party supremacy. So the court will not interfere. You go to court, the court will not interfere. It will say it's a political question within the party. Let the party deal with it.
Yeah, but my
Now,
point is,
I challenge that issue. That look, we are not asking the court to decide a political question. We are asking the court to decide whether the party has followed its own constitution.
good. That's good. That's the question I wanted to
A
ask.
particular decision.
Yes.
After all, why do we have a constitution if the court will not enforce it? The court will say, no, this is an association. If you go there and you don't like what they do, you leave. How does that help our internal political democracy within the party? And it does not give legal rights to members of the party. You join a party on the basis that they have rules, they have stipulations, they have a constitution, and that they will follow that constitution. When the party does not follow the constitution and you go to court, the court folds its hand and says, no, go back, let the party sort itself out. This is a recipe for crisis, for political crisis. And within the context of our Nigerian politics, it's a recipe for the powerful people, the government, to support some internal faction or groups within the party to destabilize the party if the court cannot interfere. And I've asked the question repeatedly, why can't the court simply enforce the constitution of a party? Because why is the constitution there if the court cannot enforce it? It does not make sense. Let the parties not have constitution anymore.
Let me ask this question. Is it possible that we may be thinking that the government decided not to even to meddle because they feel Labour Party is no longer a force to reckon with. Therefore, they don't care. While they may still view Labour Party as a threat, that anything could happen. So they just want to sustain the destabilization of the Labour Party, or probably make it worse by actually interfering in the judicial process, as they have always done. By this is a clear case of that Supreme Court shouldn't just use it. They don't probably. It's a very, very clear. It's a straightforward. You and I you've talked about this. You've analyzed the legal angle of this whole thing. That Abure doesn't have locals standing to remain as a chairman of the political party. So probably the Supreme Court sees that there's just no way they can actually interpret this to go against, to favor Abure. Hence, they decided to just play this useless, that doesn't make sense to me. Play this legal gymnastics by just nullifying the appeal court's judgment by way of jurisdiction, on the platform of jurisdiction. As a result, obviously, like you said, and like what we've already seen the sign going on now, that the confusion will probably be deepened somehow. They will get the controversy will increase. So, do you see the government? This is the strategy of the government to further destroy Labour Party.
I cannot say categorically that the government has a hand in the judgment, but certainly they will be happy with the outcome. Why? Because in the aftermath of the judgment of the Court of Appeal, Abure took over the National Secretariat of the Labour Party with his executives. I remember before that, the stakeholders had come together and put up, I think, a 27-member caretaker committee headed by Senator Nenadi Usman. But in the aftermath of the Court of Appeal judgment, Abure came back and took over the National Secretariat of the Labour Party. Now, the problem, the practical problem on the ground is with the judgment of the Supreme Court, Abure will still hold on to that office and that secretariat. How will you resolve this issue? How will you flush him out and enable the caretaker committee to come in? You have to use some measure of force, get police or some law enforcement agents to do that. And that is where the government comes in. If the government wants to help protract the crisis, they will simply enable him to remain as national and continue to claim. That is one of the reasons why I have criticized the judgment of the Supreme Court, that it doesn't make sense. The constitution of the party is there. It's registered with INEC. It's a condition for registration. Bring your constitution, register it, let everybody know this is the way you are going to be operating. Why can't the court simply enforce that constitution? Why should they run away from enforcing the constitution agreed to by all members of the party? It is, for me, it was never right then, and it is not right now. It only helps to intensify the crisis in the party, because Nigerian politicians have no limit. They have no limit when they are fighting. No national interest is concerned, no party interest. Personal interest is what dominates.
All right. Anyway, let's move on to other topic, because Abure, the Labour Party is, to me, is inconsequential. It doesn't have hold water anymore, because like you said, Peter Obi is just that we've seen the sign, the handwriting on the wall. We don't expect Peter Obi. We don't think Peter Obi will still use that platform for his ambition, sort of. So that is just it.